Hey guys, it's Hans Hobbies, and I finished the build on my Tamiya Sand Scorcher. Sorry about all the wind and the birds chirping outside, but the weather is excellent today, so the birds are also enjoying the weather. So as you can see, the build of my Sand Scorcher is complete. It doesn't have the body complete yet. It is sitting on my Tamiya Monster Beetle body, and I did have to take the face off of it, but I'll talk about all that. The Monster Beetle body itself, the shell, is identical to the Sand Scorcher. The only difference is obviously it's molded in red and it has the holes on the side of the body for the body mount, but it does still have the holes on top for the rear clips. I'll show you that. And the front is also the same. You just have to drill out this front hole for the body mount. I had to take the face off of the Beetle because with the Monster Beetle body, it has two little bosses at the bottom where the rally lights mount to. With the stock bumper, it will not fit, and I didn't want to risk breaking that rally light part off, and I didn't want to run it without the stock bumper for right now. So I had to take the face off. Maybe with the aftermarket bumper I got, maybe it'll clear enough. I don't know, we'll see. But for now, it's running without a face, but that's fine. And I also did not put on the rear exhaust pieces back there because I wanted that not to break before my actual Sand Scorcher body was ready. But I did put the huge aerial on there. Eventually I'm gonna put a little dune flag up there, so that's gonna look pretty cool. And taking the body off, and if you've never seen a Sand Scorcher before, it only has a single body clip in the front and then uses this metal clip in the back. It doesn't hold the body on as well as I would like, but it does do the job, I guess. So pretty realistic looking buggy here, pretty realistic to the real Volkswagen Beetle. And I think overall it's a really cool looking chassis, and because it's so vintage, 1979 design here, definitely a lot of unique stuff, and I've never actually built a car like this. It was really fun to build, a lot of really weird and unique stuff. Definitely modern cars are better to build than this, and they're just better constructed than this, but it is still a unique vehicle, and I did have a lot of fun building it. You see like a rudimentary servo saver up here, really rudimentary waterproofing with this huge electronics box in here, which is pretty unique. I think that's pretty cool. And the special racing vehicle and the special racing buggy etching in here and all that looks very, very cool. The metal molded transmission and the suspension part, those are all really cool, and just overall really fun thing to build. You do have to thread lock this thing a lot though, and they do include thread lock because there's a lot of little set screws and machine thread screws in here, and you don't want your thing to fall apart while you're driving it. But for running gear, I have a 15 kilogram Metal Gear Hexfly, like Red Cat servo in there out of my landslide. The stock TBLE02S speed control that comes with the car, and I'm running just like a random like off-brand Spectrum receiver, so I can run my DX4S transmitter. And for the battery, I'm running like a 1300 milliamp hour LiPo battery, and I'm running, as you can see, a LiPo alarm because this Tamiya ESC has a LiPo, has a cutoff for the lithium iron phosphate battery that they want you to use with this truck and with this car, but I don't have any of those. I don't want to get any of those, so I'm just running the alarm. And other than that, so far I just have like a adapter in there so I can fit my battery, but eventually I'll cut off the Tamiya connectors and put on a EC3 or IC3, so that's not gonna be a huge problem. But we'll see how this thing runs. I actually ran it. This is not my official first run with it. I filmed this video once before, but I had to film it again because of course it stopped working randomly, and it was just because the battery got unplugged or something. I don't know why it was mad, but it got upset and just stopped functioning. So hopefully it doesn't happen again. I already got a kind of a impression of how this thing drives, but I really want to show you guys as well. There's a stick stuck back here. So swing arm rear suspension, and then the trailing arm front. So oops, it's running away from me. We'll see how this thing runs. The nice thing about this particular kit is it does come with full ball bearings in the box, and it's quick. This is set up out of the box. You have two options for gear ratios. You have the high gear and the low gear. The high gear uses a 20-tooth aluminum pinion gear, and then the low gear uses a 15-tooth steel pinion gear and then you have a different spur gear option for that you have to use because of the way the motor mounts. I have it set up with the high gear at the moment, and it's quick. It's definitely quick enough for you to be scared, because if you've spent a lot of time on the body and don't want to crash it or flip it over or anything like that, it is definitely fast enough to scare you. And as you can see, that rear clip setup, I don't know if I built it wrong. Some of you other guys with the Sand Scorchers, you guys can let me know, but mine doesn't really seem to want to stay in place. So that's a little bit annoying. Like every few little bumps and the thing will pop off. So slightly annoying, but something I'll look into fixing. Yeah, and it has a spool. It doesn't have a diff in it. Though Tamiya does make a ball diff set for this. And with the lock diff, it has a really wide turning radius. It doesn't turn very well. And on high traction surfaces at high speed, it will flip over as well. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm barely on the throttle right now, because if I go full on the throttle, I will slam into a wall. And I don't want to break this car before even the body is ready. The nice thing about the lock diffs though is it does have pretty good traction off-road. So that is a plus. I may consider getting the ball diff set, but for right now, the stock setup is pretty good. And the suspension, for being how rudimentary it is for an RC car, it actually works pretty well. It definitely drives a lot better, even though it's only a swing arm in the rear. It definitely drives a lot better than my Hornet or my Rising Fighter. So, pretty impressed with the chassis so far. Some of the stuff in the chassis is definitely old school, like construction, so I'm not a huge fan of that. Like the servo is only taped on, it's not actually mounted to the chassis, so that's a little bit weird. The whole like the electronics bay area, that's like held on with these like little rubber grommets, and that's not too solid, and I'm not a huge fan of that either. I think the chassis is like fiberglass or something like that. I'm not sure what the material is. But I'm not a huge fan of that either. It's pretty lightweight, and it's pretty interesting. But I think for myself, I'll probably end up getting the aluminum chassis for this eventually. But as I always say, or usually say, I paid money for it, so might as well use the stuff until it breaks, right? I love driving it over this little like hump in my lawn right here. It's just the way it hops and drives around. It's very realistic to a real Beetle. Real Baja Bug feel, and it's definitely a lot of fun to drive. The only reason I'm really keeping it at a lower speed is because that body keeps popping off, and that's pretty annoying. But speaking of body popping off, let's see how this thing jumps. Oops, the body popped off again, and I did ram it into that wall. A lot of people are cringing right now with the way I'm driving this thing. A lot of people buy the Sand Scorcher and tend to just keep it as a shelfer, but as you guys would know if you guys have seen my videos before, I don't really believe in shelf queens. Even my shelf queens get run pretty hard or often. So my philosophy is it's an RC car and it's meant to be driven, so might as well drive it, right? And you only live once. Oh, that body fell off again. People may hate me for this, but I think I'm gonna take the body off actually and drive it without the body, because that body just keeps flopping around. And alright, this is either gonna be really fun or I'm gonna regret it a lot. But I take the body off and I can really open it up now because I don't really have to worry about it. You can see there, it does flip over pretty easily if you do run it like it's capable of running. I have heard the SRB, like the Rough Rider re-release, I think the fighting buggy, that version, like the Super Champ re-release. I've heard that one's a little bit better than this, just in the term of its body construction and just the overall construction, but I just really love the Volkswagen body on it. And jumping it actually jumps really, really well. I'm actually really surprised. It's definitely not for everyone. But if you're really into RC history, or you had one as a kid, or you wanted one as a kid, whether it's for historical value like me, or for nostalgic value for a lot of people, those are the type of people that are really gonna want this. For 380 bucks, or almost $400 or $500 that a lot of places sell this thing for, it's definitely not worth it for most RC people. But I actually got this thing for a pretty decent price. But even at like 320, which is what I paid for it, you can get a lot better vehicles for 320 bucks than the Sand Scorcher. So definitely not something I would ever recommend to any of my friends or anything like that. But it is something that I can enjoy by myself in my backyard or with my girlfriend or something. So yeah, I'm actually really happy with how it drives. Even though the shocks suck on it, I will probably do a review on this, so I'll talk about more of this stuff in detail there. But the shocks, the construction of it, they suck, basically. TLDR, shocks suck. The steering's not great. There are some molding issues. There's some other things that I'm not a big fan of with the construction of this. But once it's all together and once it's driving around, it's a fun buggy. If I was around in the 1980s and my parents were able to get me one of these, or if I was able to save up and get one of these back then, I think I would have been one happy camper indeed. Even in 2021, as a almost 24-year-old, it's definitely a lot of fun. Oops. This is definitely a lot harder than a lot of people run their Sand Scorchers, but hey, you build it, you break it, you fix it, and then you drive it some more. That's how the cookie crumbles for me. And I suspect for a lot of people that really really baby their cars, it's really entertaining for them to watch other people beat up their Sand Scorchers. So hopefully I can be that kind of entertainment for you guys. But yep, throw that back on there. But yeah, that's my technically first run on camera, I guess, of my Tamiya Sand Scorcher. Definitely more videos coming up about this car right here. Some upgrades. I think I'm gonna do a review on this. I think it might be a cool car to do a review on. Gonna do the body. A lot of plans for this. I have some other parts coming in for this as well. So this thing is definitely a keeper, and I'm happy with it so far. So if you guys enjoyed this video, you can give me a like, subscribe, comment down below, all that good YouTube shenanigans, and I'll see you guys next time.